I'm Robert Scoble, and you're at Tech on Deck. We're here in Scott Jordan's living room. A few years ago, he kept bugging me to come to this Allen and Company event that's in town here because he says, "Oh, there's 400 billionaires in town. You got to hang out with me, and we're gonna go and meet people." He met the co-founder of GoPro while walking his dogs last year, and he keeps telling me about all the cool stuff that happens in town. And it led to doing this live video event because we figured, oh, why bother with the billionaires? Why not have all the cool people come into our living room thanks to video conferencing technology? Today, I'm real honored to have one of my fellow Rackers. If you work at Rackspace like I do, we call ourselves Rackers. And I got John Engates, who's the CTO of Rackspace, joining us.
Hi, everybody.
And we're going to have a fun talk about companies and cloud computing and all that.
I'm excited to have you, John. I mean, it's a subject that, living here remotely in Sun Valley, Idaho, being able to use the cloud services that a company like Rackspace and others provide is critical. I couldn't live this life here without companies like Rackspace. So I'm really anxious to dig in to understand how it is you're enabling companies and some of the problems and struggles you see in the economy as a whole in this cloud computing going forward. So let's just dig right in.
Yeah. You want to start out?
Yeah, I want to start out. You're the Chief Technology Officer for Rackspace. So what do you wake up worried about every day?
Well, look, I think it's just like many companies in all sorts of industries. We wake up every day thinking about how we're going to continue to evolve and change and adapt. Most companies are always on the edge nowadays of being disrupted in one way or another, and they have to look for opportunities to serve their customers better, create a better experience for their customers, ultimately create a better outcome for their customers. It could be saving them money, it could be getting them to market faster, it could be reducing the risk, but it's ultimately about creating a better outcome for customers. And that's what we do at Rackspace. We try to make sure that our customers can take advantage of technology so that they are the disruptors and not ultimately be disrupted. We want to make sure that they're on the leading edge and can take advantage of state-of-the-art tools and capabilities to keep up.
So the whole landscape is changing drastically with Amazon and now Facebook to some degree, not directly, but getting into this space. How is Rackspace shifting to evolve around those?
Well, I think you're right that everything is changing. I mean, what's really driven the adoption of cloud computing has happened primarily on the consumer side of things. And people store their photos in the cloud, they store their backups on the cloud. I just saw a video the other day of Katie Couric explaining what the cloud is, and sort of bringing it down to earth for people and trying to help them understand what it is, because on the surface, that word cloud, a lot of people don't even know what that means. And ultimately it means computing done somewhere else or storage done in the internet. That term cloud, people probably don't even know where that came from. But what we used to do is draw a picture of a cloud on a whiteboard and say that's the internet. All the stuff that's going on in that cloud, you don't need to think too much about. And that's ultimately what these companies are doing. Facebook is building massive data centers to house your photos and your memories and your chats and your interactions with people. Google's been doing that for years. And that's really in our consumer lives. What's happening in the business world is that companies are trying to take advantage of those same technologies to drive similar experiences. No company wants to get caught flat-footed nowadays with a product or a service that feels like it's from yesteryear. They want to have an experience that feels very modern and very crisp and very social or enabled with some sort of a cloud service. And so what we're trying to do is really bring a lot of those same kinds of technologies and capabilities that the big guys that are building them for themselves have done for years. We're trying to bring that to every company.
How do you differentiate yourself at Rackspace versus Amazon for people listening in?
Well, I think that's been relatively easy for us because we have been a company that for 15, since our beginnings, really, we've been focused on customer service and support and expertise and providing a customer engagement model that is second to none. I mean, we've taken customer service to the extreme. We call it fanatical support. And fanatical support's not just something we throw on the website and say we're better than the next guy. It's something that's built into the company's DNA. It's something that we talk about a lot when we hire people and when we promote people and we build new products and services. We want to compete on the dimension of service, support, expertise, and really the way we work with our customers and become an extension of their team.
And I understand you may be reselling some of that fanatical support to some of the other companies in the marketplace at some point or another. You're actually looking at the support as the differentiator throughout.
Well,
that's fantastic. I think
that's right.
Brilliant.
So today we actually do offer fanatical support. Sometimes in customer premises data centers. There are customers who are making a transition from their own data centers to the cloud, but along the way, sometimes they want to reuse some of their existing assets, and so they oftentimes build a private cloud or an OpenStack-based private cloud, and we help customers in their data centers with that kind of a model. Also, we've extended our support to the Google Apps platform, so businesses that want to take advantage of Google Apps but want a service and support experience like they've become accustomed to with Rackspace can still get Rackspace, and it's actually enabled on top of Google's products and services. And then also Microsoft Office 365, which is a very popular collaboration email platform. Our customers tell us they want Office 365, but they want fanatical support. So we put the two together and created a service offering there where we're helping them on other platforms.
How do you, and I work there, so I have a sense of how do you help a small business person or somebody like Scott? What does fanatical support really mean to them? Because it's sort of loosey-goosey, we have fanatical support. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, look, I would imagine that Scott is somewhat technically savvy, but he's not going to be a guy that sits down at a keyboard and codes. Maybe I could be wrong. Are you writing code, Scott?
No, I'm not a coder, but I am technically savvy enough to be dangerous.
You're technically savvy. You're fairly sophisticated. Your business relies on some amount of IT to exist and to thrive. You need great tools and engagement models with your customers and e-commerce and a digital experience.
He sells me my clothes, through e-commerce.
Yeah, we were the first clothing brand to establish on the internet. So everything is about our computing platform to us. Yeah.
So you're trying to create these great digital experiences. You're trying to do digital marketing. You're trying to do social engagement with your customers. And you're focused on the things that are going to differentiate your business. You're not necessarily wanting to spend your time focusing on what I would consider the plumbing of doing e-commerce. The internet, the backbone, the servers, the connectivity, the APIs, the cloud, the code, all of those things have to work and they have to function, and somebody has to monitor them and maintain them. And they don't just happen by themselves. And so fanatical support for a company like yours or for a guy like you would mean that you have someone at Rackspace who you can call anytime. Could be Black Friday, could be Cyber Monday, could be Super Bowl if you're a company that sells a product or has a big ad campaign. You want somebody on the hook to make sure that your big day really comes off without a hitch. You want somebody, a human, that you can talk to about the challenges and the problems that are ahead of you, and how maybe some advice on how you should do things. And I think that's really what fanatical support means to a company like yours.
I was just hanging out with the guy who runs Coachella, a big music festival, and he turned to me, he goes, I just fired my cloud computing company, which we won't name. And I said, why? He goes, because I have my biggest day today. When I was talking to him, he was having everybody register his RFID bands, and they were down, and he couldn't get a human on the call. Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly what I mean. I think it's a common challenge today when customer service has just been abysmal with some in the industry, and I'm not naming names or even providers, but just in general, in all industries, customer service has been one of those things that companies have used as a lever to shave cost and to reduce expenses, and they've driven people to FAQs or to online forums or to try to just go Google it, just try to go figure it out for yourself. And that's the common approach to customer service. But when your business is on the line, when a lot of dollars are on the line, especially when it's your big day and you've really put a ton into the marketing and the build up and you've got everything on the line making that day work for you, it's got to work. You've got to have somebody there that cares and that's spending the time checking everything and making sure it's all going to work.
This is very relevant for me because I don't know, you know this, and I was on Shark Tank, and when you're on Shark Tank, you get 7 million people watching on TV, and you only get one opportunity for that network TV, that first airing. And among all the Shark Tank entrepreneurs, they all talk about their experiences in moving to Rackspace the day before, or not the day before, hopefully well before.
Hopefully a couple weeks before. But
yeah. I mean, in our experience, we went down, and my host promised me we wouldn't go down, time and time again. So, you know, hats off to you guys for.
As part of our Tech on Deck, I went around and interviewed different companies. One of them was ScaleArc, who I think is a Rackspace partner. But they help out people on Shark Tank. They say they see a 5,000% increase in traffic in the first hour that you're on.
Oh, I'm surprised it's not exponentially even more than that, because a lot of these companies might have had 10, 20 visitors, and they are going to get, you know, 5,000% of 20 visitors is not that much. So, I mean, what happens on those shows at that time is extraordinary. So there's a lot that goes into it.
I'm glad you mentioned Shark Tank, because if you didn't, I was going to. But Mark Cuban Companies actually does recommend their customers, or their companies, the portfolio companies, talk to Rackspace. I mean, they actually, Mark Cuban Companies presented at one of our recent Rackspace Solve events, and they talked about scaling and preparing and all of that kind of thing. And one of the things that we did as a company to respond to the companies that were asking for this kind of a help in terms of preparing for these big events is we've actually put a guarantee in place, what we call a service level agreement. That's the term for a guarantee in our industry. But we have an SLA that guarantees a 10x sort of payback, or a 10x guarantee on what we charge customers on the big day. If it's Black Friday, or if it's Shark Tank night, or whatever it might be, if you've given us the time to work with you to prepare for that event, if you have a problem, if you have an outage, it's something that's triggers a service level agreement penalty, we don't just pay back at 1x our penalty, we pay back at 10x, which is really just telling people that we put our money where our mouth is in terms of that level of service that we promise.
Well, you know, that's appreciated, but from this side of the fence, 10x of what I pay, it doesn't matter.
That's right.
But it does speak volumes, because when we went down, my provider said, okay, you know, we'll give you, you were down 20 minutes, the key 20 minutes. We'll give you 20 minutes prorated for a month. I'm like, oh my God, you just don't get it.
$10 or something, yeah. So
it was
you're
ridiculous.
Right. It doesn't really matter, but all that's really trying to do is make sure that we're on the line with you. We're paying attention on these big days, that we know that these are big days. These are important to you, and therefore they're important to us.
Yeah. If you had an opportunity to talk with the 300 billionaires shaping technology and media 1 mile down the road, what would you advise them for the future and things to think about?
Well, it's a great question. I think that ultimately every single one of them, I mean, they wouldn't be billionaires if they weren't smarter than all of us, but they're ultimately...
There's some lucky billionaires. But,
ultimately, they need to think about the experiences that their customers are going to expect in whatever product or service or thing that they're making or doing. That's changing so rapidly. I saw somebody posted a picture, I don't know if it was Scoble or not, but Elon Musk had a Tesla out there in the front. That is a customer experience that's really second to none in the automotive industry. The customers rave about that product. The customers love everything about it, and then they go out and evangelize it for free. It's basically a free marketing. Apple has done that for many years. They've created these customer experiences that have just transformed how they sell, how they interact with their customers. I think that has become expected nowadays. I think that companies are starting to expect that I'm going to have a cloud service attached to my automobile, or I'm going to have an experience with my music device or whatever, that I can just immediately get content, and it's seamless and it's easy, and really I don't have to go through a lot of hoops to get it. Ultimately, that's what every customer is looking for, and they will choose the companies that deliver that, and they'll avoid the companies that are stagnating.
And they will stay with those companies that deliver, for an attorney. I know we have a lot of our partners, and the moment they stop delivering that, we move away. This was the one interview I was so excited about because, I think we share the same passion for the customer experience, and I can really speak to, the need for what you're providing.
Rackspace has hosted YouTube before it got sold to Google. I
didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And TED. We have 300,000 customers. What are the kinds of customers? I mean, you probably meet more businesses than I do, and I think that's saying something. I think your frequent flyer mileage is higher than mine. But I think don't they call you the chief travel officer?
Chief travel officer. That's right. They joke with me. No, I mean, I think the companies that we serve come from a wide range of industries. There are a lot of media companies, entertainment companies. We have.
I think that's why my boss at Rackspace approved expenses for this project, right? Because there's so many media companies that use Rackspace.
Yeah, it's hard for me to name all the names because sometimes they don't give us permission to speak, publicly about their names. But really, a lot of the companies that are doing big things on the internet from a media and entertainment standpoint, which is nowadays it ought to be everybody. Those are the kinds of people that are leaning on Rackspace. I think in terms of software, it's the companies that are doing software as a service, that are transforming their businesses into online delivery models of software. It's traditional retailers. Lots of retailers are going from a model of selling through department stores or in a mall or in a brick and mortar store to an online model, or they want to have a way to bring it all together where they have one place for the customer to interact, whether it's in store or online, and that sort of omni-channel approach to things. So really every company that's coming to us through one of the digital agencies that's trying to build that online digital interaction, those are the types of companies that we're dealing with.
Yeah. There's been quite a bit of chaos in our business model. Can you explain a little bit about how Rackspace has changed over the last 5 years? Because when I joined the company, it was really going toe-to-toe with Amazon on innovation, and now we've changed our business model. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, well, look, I think that the cloud has been a very rapidly evolving space. The marketplace for cloud computing, with that term cloud, I mean, Amazon was probably the first major company to sort of come out with a product called cloud computing, and even there they call it Amazon Web Services, and so they don't even call it Amazon Cloud Computing, they call it Amazon Web Services, but ultimately what they're delivering is cloud. And I think that started in earnest probably in 2007 or 8 timeframe. And so, cloud computing as we know it has only been around for about 7 or 8 years. And so in that time, the market had to figure out who was going to do what, who were the players that were going to bring what kinds of services to market. And some of the companies jumped right in with two feet, and some companies held back and waited and waited and waited. And we were one of the ones that recognized that something was going on, and we jumped in and we built our own cloud and launched it in 2009, pretty early on. And to do that, we had to build a lot of our own software. We had to write cloud computing software to turn all those computers and storage into a cloud. And that's really the roots of what is now OpenStack. OpenStack is an open source project for cloud computing software. Much of that was built and started at Rackspace, and then we merged and joined forces with other companies and NASA and created OpenStack out of that. But ultimately, when we first started, we were offering a service that was quite similar to an Amazon model. It was, compute and storage and other services that went along with it. And at the time, there was only one business model: sell it cheap. Stack it deep and sell it cheap is the way the way you think about that. And that model has evolved. People are finding now that there are more than one type of buyer of cloud computing. There are small companies that are born in the cloud that have all the technical knowledge that they need, and they have the expertise, and those are typical Silicon Valley startups. On the other hand, there are big enterprise customers that want to take advantage of cloud computing that don't have all those skills. And so what we recognized 2 or 3 years ago is that there were going to be more than one category of cloud computing companies or industry segments. And we defined or created one that we call managed cloud. And managed cloud means that we're not as focused on the commodity elements and just constantly lowering the price to get customers. We're focused on the service and the support above that stack that enables companies to actually take advantage of it. And that's what managed cloud is. It's helping companies use the cloud for a great outcome.
You know, there's some new things that have come on the market, technologies like Docker.
Yes.
Maybe cover why Docker keeps getting mentioned in nearly every article about cloud lately. And what are you seeing as the innovation shifts in cloud? Because I'm sure that's part of what the billionaires are worrying about. Like, hey, you should bet on Microsoft's VMs or OpenStack or Amazon. You know, where's the innovation happening here, and what should we pay attention to there?
Well, that's a good question. There's a couple questions there. So first of all, I'll just cover containers. Containers are a way to wrap an application in a little bundle such that it can be moved from one computer to another without a lot of pain or a lot of headache. And so I like to use maybe the analogy, it's hard to use one technology analogy to explain this, but I'll try to maybe talk about virtual machines. Maybe that's one that's probably more on the minds of most customers. But virtual machines ultimately were a way to carve up a single server and make it look like more than one machine from the standpoint of the software. You could run more than one copy of Linux or more than one copy of Windows on a single machine. So that was server virtualization, operating systems and server virtualization. What we're doing now is sort of slicing up the server at the application level. So we're taking a small application, and I could use an easy example like a blog running on WordPress. That's the easiest example I can think of. But you've got a WordPress blog. You want to get that installed on a Linux server. Used to be you had to start with a download of a bunch of software. You had to have the machine all configured just so. You had to have all the dependencies ready to go. Now it's as easy as taking this little Docker container and dropping it on a server and having that bring all of its dependencies with it. And so the analogy they used in the world of Docker is sort of like a shipping container. It used to be the way they loaded a ship was sort of by hand, and now they load it with these cranes, with each container being a very modular kind of unit of measurement, and it's easy to move around because you've got some standards across ships. Well, that's the same idea behind Docker in the cloud. What we want to have is the way to package and bundle applications such that you can move them from a Rackspace cloud to an Amazon cloud to a Microsoft cloud to a Google cloud, and everything looks very similar underneath, and you've got this substrate that makes it easy to move back and forth. And so, the developers have jumped on this quickly because they have a challenge of moving code and moving content and moving their applications around. They want to move it from their laptop to the production environment. And so they were the first ones to see the opportunity to use Docker containers as a way to manage applications.
Just makes sense. I mean,
it does make
logical.
sense. It's just a way to package apps and move them quickly, and it is logical. It's very efficient. It saves a lot of time and energy, and it gets you a lot of consistency in your environment, which is consistency is a way to prevent errors and human disasters when it comes to managing these complex environments. If you can automate things, that's a way to make things cheaper, faster, and more efficient. So that's what containers are all about.
Yeah. The second part of that question was innovation, and where are you seeing? Is Docker it for this year, or are there other things that we should be paying attention to in terms of bleeding edge technologies?
Well, as soon as you introduce something like Docker, then there's a burst of energy around innovation around Docker, right? So Docker is just sort of a first step in how to utilize containers. I mean, Google, for example, has been utilizing containers in their data centers for probably a decade. It's not something new to them. And so what you're seeing now is projects like a Kubernetes project, which is, I think, launched out of Google, as a mechanism to allow companies to manage containers at scale. It's a way to make sure that services running in containers are reliable and can be scaled up and scaled down easily and can be run across multiple data centers easily. And those are the kinds of innovations I think that are going to happen going forward. There's another company called Mesos, or another project called Mesos, which is very similar in concept. It's a way to manage containers at scale. So, this is how you now get your applications ready to run in these large-scale environments. How you do it without a lot of sysadmins. You want to do DevOps. You want to do DevOps at scale. You want to make sure that your applications are automated so that you can recover quickly or scale quickly. And I think that's where the innovation is going to be going forward.
I'm super impressed with everything, all my interactions with Rackspace, as a consumer. We're now finally in a position where we're looking to offload our server here locally, not our web server. We're still being told that's not advisable by the people who crashed it the last time, but maybe I shouldn't take their advice. But my interactions with your team have been fantastic thus far, and I love what you do.
This shows how hard it is for businesses
Oh,
to change.
Oh my God! And
change infrastructure.
It is not only that for startups that are looking to make technology decisions, to make sure that you're making the right decisions and you choose the right partners from the outset. Because I know a lot of the people that are listening to us now are startups or aspire to be startups, or they're in a business and they're not thrilled with their technology partners. And if you make those bad decisions, it's amazing that I will bet that half of the billionaires there now, if they didn't make a right decision with their technology partner early, it sets them back for years. And we went with an ERP system that was, I'll say it, Salesforce, and not Salesforce, no, NetSuite, and it cost us $1 million converting over to them. When ultimately the reason why we did it, we had a CFO who came in and said we had to go. We ultimately learned that replacing a RAM chip in the server would have allowed our existing ERP system to work for several more years, and that's what we had to revert back. So I would encourage people, although it seems over their head, or to really learn a little bit about these technology decisions and choose the best partner, not the cheapest partner, to ensure that you're not spending your time learning about all this stuff. And this isn't a commercial for Rackspace. This is my own personal experience that I feel very strongly about in that experience. Because those decisions that they made, each Uber, you think about Uber, who's there now, if they didn't choose the right technology partners and people, they would have had numerous stumbling blocks along the way, every single one of them. So it's something that you need to take very seriously. And the customer service that you guys provide is exactly the philosophy that we have here at ScottyVest. And I loved what you said. The advice that you would give to the billionaires is don't ever lose focus of what the customer has to say. So thank you very much. And I want to thank you in particular for sending Robert out here to enable Tech on Deck to happen. And
I'm spending the last 6 weeks of my life going around and meeting the best companies in the world, from
it's good
20th
to see
Century Fox.
Scoble in his element. He's totally in his element there.
Oh my God.
Look at him.
Everyone knows him. We're out there with the billionaires. They know he's communicating with Zuckerberg on Facebook and among others, and trying to bring a billionaire over here. Eventually we will, but
we're going billionaire hunting.
Well, good luck. Good luck. I hope you bag a good one.
I want to thank our sponsors, Ustream, Cisco, for the teleconferencing, making this so working seamlessly. Of course, Rackspace, New Tech for the TriCaster, Syringa for the pipe, the fiber optic, and of course,
ScottyVest, which makes my pants. Look.
I want to get your size. I want to hook you up with a ScottyVest.
Hey, I'll send it to you.
The pants that hold the biggest phones, right? And shirts, underwear. I'm wearing your underwear, I think. You're the only man. You're the only man I let touch my balls. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thanks.